At Cambrian Ford, come see the difference at Cambrian Ford.
Tonight, waiting, watching, and fighting back.
I came out at 7 this morning. I've been watching the river all night.
This is it. Is there stuff in the store that's wrecked?
Scary. I'm up all night checking the sump, and I'm scared to go to work.
I'm thinking they should put traffic lights so we can cross the road with the boat.
Good evening. Roadways in the region are beginning to turn into waterways tonight.
Rising rivers are spilling over their banks, leaving homeowners stranded and motorists cut off from roads and highways. We begin tonight near Hagar, where provincial police have closed a section of the Trans-Canada. Here's MCTV's Derek Rogers.
Amphibious transport trucks? Such a thing may not exist, but it would have come in handy on Highway 17 near Marks Day. Water flowed freely across the Trans-Canada, not only shutting the highway down, but cutting off this house as well. It was a scene more reminiscent of Venice than Northern Ontario.
I'm thinking they should put traffic lights so we can cross the road with the boat.
3 pumps worked overtime to empty the basement of the home. Across the road, Bernie Vogelaar paddles across his new property. It's a rude welcome to the neighborhood.
I moved in here in December, and I was very surprised to see this water here and this runoff.
Down the highway, train traffic has come to a halt. Water has submerged the track. Conductor Marty Osborne has been stranded here since noon.
Yeah, must be pretty boring up there.
Well, we can do what we can do. Like, there's other times we've been delayed too, so it's nothing abnormal for us to sit there for something like this happens. Nothing you can really do, just sit and wait, and hopefully it clears up in a while.
Osborne says it's possible the train may still be stuck here Thursday. Once the water subsides, someone still has to make sure the track hasn't been washed away. Derek Rogers, MCTV News, near Marks Day.
The threat posed by flooding is having a unifying effect on the region. Residents in towns and neighborhoods across the district are banding together to fight the onslaught of water. First to the town of Chelmsford and the wall against Whitson River. Here's MCTV's Carrie Sinaway.
The Whitson River has taken on new territory in the yards of residents in the Whitson Garden area in Chelmsford. But residents here have been trying to keep it away. Since Tuesday night, many have been securing sandbags around the homes. It's an effort that includes the Rayside Balfour firefighters, public works crews, and fellow neighbors. So far, this group has packaged thousands of sandbags because for some homes, it can take a couple hundred to surround it.
We started at 5 o'clock last night, worked till about 10, and then I came out at 7 this morning. I've been watching the river all night. Came out at 7 this morning, and at about, I'd say 10 o'clock, we started all over again.
I'm really happy with the job everybody's pitching in. Teenagers are really giving us a hand over here. I really appreciate it.
And while most residents try to fight the flood situation, others try to take it on. A man attempted to cross the river here, but deep waters prevented him from continuing. Emergency crews did get him out before any harm was done. This is the first time that the town of Rayside Balfour has had to use its emergency flood plan. And if there is any good that can come out of it, it would be to see whether or not the plan needs to be improved.
We're going to critique it to see if there's any areas to improve, but by the looks of things, everything went very smoothly.
Some residents feel that the safety measures taken weren't necessary, like blocking off access over the bridge on Main Street.
Here's a perfect example why it is safe when they're driving a truck like this across, but they're saying it's unsafe for it's unsafe for the civilian vehicles to pass. I just don't agree with them closing the bridge for the people that live in Whitson.
Despite that, officials say it was a necessary move for the safety of the workers, and they will maintain their positions until all is safe. Carrie Sinaway, MCTV News, Chelmsford.
In Coniston, residents were taking up their positions today. It meant hours of sandbagging and sump pumps working overtime. And as MCTV's Alana Toth reports, the hard work is paying off so far.
It's a nasty April Fool's trick by Mother Nature. But to Coniston residents, it's no joke. Sandbags and umbrellas line Caruso Street. It's an all too familiar event each spring.
I think many people are frustrated with the problems that have been happening. We thought this situation was going to be cleared up this year, but it still hasn't been cleared up. So I think residents are going to be fairly angry about what's happening here this week.
It's scary. I'm up all night checking the sump, and I'm scared to go to work because I don't want to leave the house alone in case something breaks or the water comes up anymore. We've pulled everything out of the basement and out of the shed and everything, and it's just wait and see.
When flooding happened last spring in the town, the region took action. Crews built a wall of defense on the north side of Highway 17. Although it's holding back a huge volume of water, flooding is still a problem. While feelings of frustration are prevalent in Coniston, many residents say they are thankful the region built this berm last summer. Many say without it, the situation could be a lot worse. Alana Toss, MCTV News, Coniston.
With the forecast still calling for rain, the situation could still get worse for many areas, including the city of Sudbury. Rivers and creeks are still at capacity, but according to MCTV's Brian Oliver, quick action by work crews and residents may be saving the day.
This was a most welcome sight for Lansing Avenue residents. A truckload of sandbags from the city of Sudbury. Immediately, an assembly line begins to protect homes backing onto a raging Junction Creek.
Normally, you wouldn't even see this water. There would be about, beyond this fence, there would be about 3-4 feet of dry land, and then the creek actually drops down about 3 or 4 feet. So standing here, you wouldn't even be able to see the water unless you're up at the fence area.
Much to the relief of Angela Labby and her neighbors, the bags were in place just as the heavy rain began to let up.
City crew showed up and we all started working together. So I'd actually like to thank everybody that was around. Everybody helped out. It was a great job.
Team efforts like this one were evident across the Sudbury region.
I've seen this morning neighbors helping neighbors, really looking out for each other, especially some of the older people that are living by themselves and can't really fend for themselves. What I'm seeing is lots of people out there looking out for them, sandbagging, making sure the sump pumps are working.
Although the worst may be over in terms of the rainfall, there still is a tremendous amount of water that has to move through the system throughout the entire region of Sudbury, and that has authorities still very much concerned about issues of safety, including young children near the water.
We would encourage all parents, given the situation, the rising water levels and the chances of washout and the water entering in a rapid hurry areas that weren't previously at risk, that children be guarded closely in playing anywhere near any of these areas.
Although authorities hope the water has crested, small bridges and culverts will likely remain dangerous places to be for the next several days.
And MCTV's Brian Oliver joins us now from Regent Street along Junction Creek. Brian, what's the situation there?
Well, the water, as we saw a few moments ago, still flowing through the system. Almost all the water in the city has to come through this point and move on down the line to Kelly Lake and the rest of the water system. But things are flowing fairly well, and officials are hoping that the things have crested and things aren't going to rise anymore. And to elaborate a little bit more on the situation, Clive Wood of the City of Sudbury Public Works Department joins us to tell us what's the latest situation as far as the city goes, Clive.
The latest situation is that the water has pretty well peaked at the Maley Dam. We've seen a slight rise today, but everything is stable at the current time, and as long as the weather conditions hold, we expect things to be stable throughout the evening. So.
The situation today, a lot of people calling the city of Sudbury's flood line. What are people calling about? What have their primary concerns been?
Most of their concerns are localized flooding around their houses, water in their basements and around the perimeter of their homes. And we've been able to assist them as much as possible with providing sandbags and helping them to deploy those bags.
If people need more information, they can still call that flood line and get sandbags and any other material they need tonight?
The hotline of 673-5681, it will be open 24 hours a day until the conditions warrant otherwise, and that we should be able to assist most people through that line.
Okay, Clive, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Clive Wood of the City of Sudbury Public Works Department here along Junction Creek along Regent Street. Let's send it back now to the desk.
Thank you, Brian. Another trouble spot tonight is for drivers on Notre Dame Avenue between Wilma Street and Cambrian Heights Drive. The water is rising on the north and south curb lanes. Traffic is down to 2 lanes instead of the 4.
And the floodwaters continue to rise throughout northeastern Ontario. One of the hard-hit areas is south of the city. The Trans-Canada Highway near Baril is down to 1 lane because of overnight flooding. Gordon Nichols reports.
The pumps have been working at full tilt since 10 o'clock Tuesday night. Residents from Baril and volunteers of the Brit and Area Fire and Rescue Department have worked through the night to hold back the rushing waters, but to no avail.
Yeah, we had things pretty well under control there by about 2 in the morning. And we figured something let go and the water started to rise, and it's risen steady ever since. So now she's pretty well about 2 feet all through the store, and we've got a big washout down the road here. And right now it's not subsiding at all, so we'll just keep pumping until something lets go, and hopefully we can catch up with it, you know.
The best guess is that a chain of lakes above the community couldn't contain 5 days' worth of rain. A devastated Dave Green can't believe it. This is the second hit he's taken this year. The mild winter kept snowmobilers away, and now his gas station and store are under 2 feet of water.
This would do me in. This is it. There's a lot of stuff in the store that's wrecked.
It's also hard for his neighbors to watch.
Oh, it's very hard because they seem to go through this every year. Now, this is, like I said, it's the highest it's been, but people are bringing their pumps to try and help out, and there's really not that much you can do to fight Mother Nature.
Runoff causes minor flooding in this area every spring. And although work has been done to divert the water, residents say this incident, the worst in 10 years, proves more needs to be done. Gordon Nichols, MCTV News, Baril.
And the weather continues to cause problems for people living along Highway 607A in the French River area. It remains closed for a second evening because of flooding. 607A is the only way home for about 70 people and the only road into 2 resorts. South of Sudbury, also still closed, Secord Road, now under at least 3 feet of water.
Part of the Canadian Pacific Rail line between Sudbury and Toronto has been washed out. It happened overnight when about 12 meters of track was knocked off its moorings near Bala. A temporary dam was built so crews could repair the track and dig drainage culverts. A signal indicator detected the washout before any trains passed through that area.
Some schools east of Sudbury were forced to close this afternoon. Students were sent home from St. Thomas, St. Charles, St. Mark's, Markstay Public, and Warren Public Schools. High school students, meantime, who live in the Warren, Markstay, and St. Charles area and attend school in Sudbury were also bused home much earlier than usual today, about 1 o'clock. The school board say they will assess the situation early tomorrow morning to determine if the buses can in fact pass through those routes. So,
needless to say, it's slow going everywhere, and take your time and take caution.
And tomorrow we'll have complete weather details of what's in store for us later on. But first, some details on the daffodil campaign.
To brighten up this gray day, we have a couple of daffodils from the Canadian Cancer Society, Ian Monroe and Martha Barr. So, Ian, how many of these daffodils are being sold in the Sudbury area this year?
This year we received just over 100,000 daffodils for the area.
A lot of flowers. And Martha, where are they being sold?
We'll have volunteers in the hospitals on Thursday and Friday, and in the malls on Saturday.
Ian, one last question. How much are they?
They're $4 a bunch with 8 blooms per bunch.
And all for a very good cause. Thanks very much. Ahead in weather, unfortunately, more showers, even the possibility of freezing rain.
Still to come tonight, pulling the plug. Police forces team up to confiscate illegal gambling machines.
And Jailhouse Rock, another jail unveil, is coming to catch celebrity crooks.
At first, I thought it was a little crazy. My mom becoming a flight attendant now. When she started training, I kidded her about taking classes in coffee pouring and pillow fluffing. I mean, she's actually learning how an airplane works. She was studying safety procedures, evacuation. She even learned how to resuscitate someone.
Before we ever brought you here, we went
It's pretty cool. There's a lot more to it than you think. Sort of like my mom. I know she's going to be great. I mean, she is my mom.
The Nabob Coffee Company has harnessed the power of the volcano. You see, the nutrients in this volcanic ash enrich the nearby coffee fields and help grow the better beans for Nabob tradition. I'm here to select only those better beans that meet our high standards and give Nabob tradition coffee its better flavor and aroma. At Nabob, we get better beans. You get better coffee.
a place you can really sink your teeth into.
Another hit from Mother Nature in eastern Ontario and Quebec. And pitching in to help, Army cadets do their part. The worst may be yet to come. More problems for spring runoff in the region.
Good afternoon. Just when it looked like the flooding situation was coming under control in the Sudbury region, a new problem is emerging.
Parts of the Vermillion River are becoming jammed with ice. Residents in the towns of Rayside, Balfour, Onaping Falls, and Walden are being advised to take precautionary actions in the event of possible flooding. The Nickel District Conservation Authority says it will likely be 2 or 3 days before the situation improves.
And there are mounting concerns about the Morgan Road Bridge west of Sudbury. An ice pack has broken up and it's now rushing down the Vermillion River. Huge ice chunks are causing much of the concern for officials on the Vermillion right now. The main problem could be the size of several of those ice packs as they move downriver. Authorities fear the chunks may cause problems downstream as there could be an ice buildup at the bridge. Now, Gord Nichols is on the Vermillion River in about the troubled area, and he has the latest for us. Gord, what's happening?
Yeah, Peter, I'm at the 144 bridge on the Vermillion with Paul CICI-TV with the Nickel District Conservation Authority. Paul, we got the release this morning about the Vermillion and about the warning to people, the advisory. How serious is the situation, first of all?
Well, certainly what we're advising them, Gord, is that the levels are coming up. In some of the areas, there's ice jams. There was one major ice jam on the Vermillion at the Morgan Road Bridge. It seems to have dissipated. There are other areas where that is being closely monitored. I think the concern there is that there could be surges of water, so that's why that's being carefully looked at. We do have water up now on Larchmount Drive, which is in Onaping Falls, and then of course further down in Walden the levels are coming up. So I think the property owners that could be affected are being advised to start to take precautionary measures. It's probably a few days, we would estimate, before we see the higher volumes coming through, and it's just to ensure that everybody is prepared to deal with the probabilities that are out there.
What about some of the other areas that we talked about earlier in the week, the Junction Creeks, the Wanapitei Rivers, those places?
Yeah, the Junction Creek is pretty much stabilized now. In some areas it's receding a wee bit, so that we've, I think, gotten over that hump. The Whitson River, which flowed very high through the valley, through Chelmsford town site, is holding its own and maybe coming down a bit. So essentially we're looking now at the Vermillion River as being the most sensitive area and the area that demands the greatest amount of attention over the next few days.
Those ice packs, just quickly, what's the problem there? I mean, we saw the pictures earlier of the ice roaring through at the Morgan Road Bridge. What's the problem?
Well, you have the potential that they can back up a significant amount of water, and then if they were to let go or to open up, that you can have surges. As well at the bridge crossings, you don't want people to all of a sudden have water coming up, so that the municipalities are watching the bridge crossings. They will be monitoring those to ensure that the ice doesn't cause a significant problem. And, you want to get that ice through the system so that the water can have a free flow.
Okay, Paul, thanks very much.
Thanks, Gord.
Paul CICI-TV with the Nickel District Conservation Authority. Something to keep in mind that the Conservation Authority kind of watches overall, but that municipalities are also watching closely on all their spots. Back to you guys on the desk.
Thank you, Gord. Regional officials are calling it a close call and a crisis narrowly averted. An electrical failure at the region's sewage treatment plant led to some tense moments Thursday afternoon that could have left hundreds of homes knee-deep in disaster. A power outage at the plant caused the water to rise to dangerous levels. Thanks to some quick work by the region, power was restored within an hour. Officials say had the outage lasted for another half hour, as many as 500 homes could have been flooded. Regional officials stress they're not dumping raw sewage into Lake Ramsey, and the water is safe to drink. The power outage is unrelated to flood conditions across the region.
In Naughton, it was a call to arms last night to keep a bad situation from getting worse. 17 members of the 2964 Walden Irish Army Cadets came to the rescue with water flowing well beyond the shores of Simon Lake. Aided by a few more volunteers, the crew kept busy sandbagging around threatened homes. one of which was already pretty heavily underwater. The volunteers spent about 3 hours on the job. Simon Lake is fed by McCharles Lake. That's another trouble spot in the Walden area, according to MCTV's Carrie Sinaway.
Walden residents living along McCharles Lake are trying hard to protect their homes. The banks of the lake, which runs off Junction Creek, have overflowed to fill the yards of about 4 homes. So now residents like the Linvilles have been forced to utilize a new form of transportation.
This is the first time since 1985 that we've got hit this bad, so we went 13 years without it coming up. It'd be nicer if they could drain a little water off earlier in the year, and then you don't have this backload of water, but this, like you can see, this amount of rain that we've got is, I'm sure they couldn't predict that.
Right now, flooded driveways and yards are a familiar scene along McCharles Lake Road. However, there are some residents who've been lucky, and they're working hard to make sure that the lake doesn't creep up to their door.
We're not as bad off as our neighbors further down the street who are having a canoe to their front doors, but you can see we're filling up sandbags. We're going to prepare for the worst, and hopefully it won't come.
We have a shed over there. It's underwater. The garage we have to go around the garage too. It's getting up there pretty fast.
When the water does stop rising in the area, residents predict it will take about a week or so before the water in their yards goes down. Carrie Sinaway, MCTV News, Walden.
A call has gone out for chest waders for flood fighters. They're needed by volunteers sandbagging at Simon Lake and Naughton. If you have a pair and can help out, please call Rowley or Noella Sabrin at 692-5361. That number again is 692-5361.
And there is little change, if any, according to the OPP today, on flooded-out highways. 17, just west of Sudbury, remains closed for a third straight day. Here's MCTV's Alan Black.
For the second straight day, Highway 17 from Markstay to Verner is closed to traffic. Parts of the road are covered with water, and police aren't taking any chances. Traffic, as a result, is being rerouted.
I know between Markstay and Hagar here in 3 different areas, the water's right over the roadway, and we're not sure how deep it is, and we're concerned about the shoulders eroding and whatever. We got to keep traffic off it until the river goes down.
It's anyone's guess right now as to when the highway will be reopened. Police saying it all depends on Mother Nature. Much of the area's water problems stem from the Veuve River. Water from the river has overflown onto roads and into rest areas and homes. In the town of Hagar, a bridge on Highway 535 is closed. Nearby, a home is surrounded by water, the garage partially submerged. A block away, Robert Martel's property is flooded. There is 4 feet of water in his basement.
I tried pumping it out the other day, but the water comes through the walls, and there's holes. I'm afraid if I keep pumping it, the wall might cave in, so I got scared. I left it full. So I'm leaving it like that for now. So wait until it goes down, then we'll pump it out.
Alan Black, MCTV News, Hagar.
There is some good news in the flood battle to the south of Sudbury. Highway 607 is open again, allowing traffic into several dozen homes, and yesterday's resort, 607, had been underwater for 3 days.
And a timely reminder for people in flooded parts of Ontario. Emergency officials are warning curious sightseers stay well away from affected regions. Drinking well water should be avoided if your well has been flooded. All food that has been in contact with flood water should be thrown out. There are also electrical hazards. Officials say no one should enter the flooded portions of homes until the power supply has been shut off. And heaters and furnaces that have been in contact with flood water should not be used until they are thoroughly checked out.
In other news, the ties between the Sudbury Regional Hospital and the new YMCA Center for Life are expanding. The two groups announced this morning the hospital will offer 4 additional programs at the new Y when it opens in late '99. Programs include pulmonary rehabilitation, nutrition counseling, an asthma clinic, and a new parents program. In all, 8 hospital programs will be incorporated into the new Center for Life. Officials say that will mean 5,000 square feet of additional space. Construction on the 95,000 square foot building is scheduled to begin in July.
And what we're doing now is just taking them out of the hospital site and making them part of the community initiative. So it'll look a little different, but they're certainly already being...
Ugly furniture? Forget about it. Leon's No Money Miracle has the most beautiful furniture anywhere. And you don't pay for 1 whole year. Leon's.
I have such a good feeling about this.
Tonight, Partners in Progress, the new regional hospital, teams up with the WISE Center for Life.
Illegal login of Al Karen man is charged after NASA's website gets tangled.
But now there's no point. They've given up hope.
It's going to get much higher. We're going to be able to go down the road with a big boat with a 50 Merc motor on it.
Heightened fears the Vermillion River adds to the region's water woes.
Good evening. Just when it looked like the flooding situation was coming under control, a new problem is emerging. The Vermillion River is on the rise, and it's still got a ways to go. But despite those very difficult circumstances, people in one neighborhood are managing to keep their sense of humor. Gord Nichols reports.
To get to the St. Louis residence, you need a canoe or a four-wheel drive. And as you can see, the four-wheel drive better be watertight. 30 families are in a similar situation. Yesterday, a nearby trailer park was cleared. Those that remain are testament to the stubbornness of the water.
We don't want to leave because we have to take the burner out of the furnace, unhook the oil, and so we're just hoping it doesn't come up too much farther than this.
This is not new for Barb Hill. She's lived on this street for 18 years and was baptized in 1985. She also refuses to lose her sense of humor.
This isn't as bad as it's going to be. It's going to get much higher. We're going to be able to go down the road with a big boat with a 50 Merc motor on it.
All of this in the Vermillion River hasn't peaked yet. That's not expected to happen for another 3 days.
The river itself has come up about 26 inches since Tuesday, and we can expect it to rise a fair amount more, again dependent on the river or the weather, because of the catchment area for the Vermillion system.
Residents in the towns of Rayside, Balfour, Onaping Falls, and Walden are being advised to take precautionary actions in the event of possible flooding.
In some of the areas concerned with ice jamming, close to bridge crossings or in the meandering areas along the river, you know what we have to keep an eye on the municipalities is that if you have ice jams, there's potential that you could get surges of water. And we're advising the citizens to begin to take precautionary measures.
For many on Larchmont, it's not when the flooding will occur, but to what level the water will rise. Everybody's looking for a break. The question is, will Mother Nature cooperate? Gord Nichols, MCTV News, on Larchmont Drive in Dowling.
The owners of a trailer park near Naughton are worried all this water means they've lost everything. Flooding has submerged not only their homes, but most of the trailers as well. MCTV's Derek Rogers has more.
Waterfront trailers have become waterlogged trailers. The Holiday Beach campground on McCharles Lake is under about a meter of runoff. Owner Wally Gallant can only shake his head and watch the water rise, flooding not only his park, but his home as well. He didn't want to appear on camera, but his future daughter-in-law says the place is a mess.
Everybody's been coming in, trying to jack up the trailer, doing their best, getting their stuff out. They've jacked up the trailers 3 or 4 feet, and some of them are still getting wet. Lots of them have about half the trailers full.
The water started to rise about 2 days ago, catching trailer owners completely by surprise. Bad news because many of the 35 trailers don't have insurance.
They've had absolutely no help. If they had warning, we could have got some of the stuff out in trucks. But now, there's no point. They've given up hope.
Boileau is getting married April 25th. The plan had been to have a relative stay at the park. Now, those plans will have to be changed. Boileau says, yes, this is a floodplain, but if the Ministry of Natural Resources and the town of Walden had given them prior notification before opening up the dams, then perhaps some of this could have been saved. Derek Rogers, MCTV News, McCharles Lake.
And in Naughton, a call to arms last night to keep a bad situation from getting much worse. 17 members of the 2964 Walden Irish Army Cadets came to the rescue with water flowing well beyond the shores of Simon Lake. Aided by a few more volunteers, the crew kept busy sandbagging around threatened homes, one of which was already pretty much waterlogged. The volunteers spent about 3 hours on the job, and today the work continued for residents along Simon Lake Drive. MCTV's Carrie Sinaway was there this morning.
Residents living on Simon Lake Drive in Walden are blocking off their homes from the flooding shorelines of Simon Lake. It's work that began last night with help from Collège Boreal students and Walden cadets. Residents living along Simon Lake say that the water has risen a couple of feet along the shoreline, and in some instances the water has been pushed about 150 feet inward. All morning, truckloads of sand were brought in ready to be bagged.
Well, we had 3 truckloads of sand, tandem truckloads, and I guess that's just a part of it. The rest of it are around the different houses.
There hasn't been any damage to the homes yet. Residents are keeping ahead of that by raising anything that is in jeopardy.
It's right in this area that's the problem. The farther east you go, it's a little higher ground, and that's a cottage over there, so there's nobody in it right now, so I don't think that's a problem yet.
Others say they haven't seen the flooding this bad. Ray Bertrand says he's at the limits of sandbagging.
People on the lake down below us in McCharles have had big problems, and if that system starts to back up here, well, who knows what it's going to bring.
Most of Bertrand's outdoor belongings are submerged under 2 feet of water.
When this happens, Mother Nature takes over. All we can do is just wait and see what she brings for us.
Carrie Sinway, MCTV News, Walden.
A call is out for chest waders for the flood fighters. They're needed by volunteers sandbagging at Simon Lake in Naughton. Please call Rowley and Noella Sabarin at 692-5361 if you've got some chest waders to spare. 692-5361. This word just in, Highway 17 East is now open. 17 just east of Sudbury was closed for 3 consecutive days due to flooding along the Veuve River. Motorists had to bypass the area by traveling Highway 64 that stretches from Highway 69 south of Sudbury to Highway 17 at Verner. Again, Highway 17 east of Sudbury open for traffic again in both directions. News tonight, too, in the flood battle south of Sudbury. Highway 607 is open again, allowing traffic into several dozen homes and yesterday's resort. 607 had been underwater for 3 days, and the OPP have just opened Secord Road, also flooded for part of the week. But not so good news for residents living along Red Deer Lake Road in Wanapate. This is what you can expect if you are traveling down that road. It is completely washed out. Owners of homes alongside are doing what many flooded-out residents are doing in the region, using boats to get them from the roadway to their homes and back again. It is a disaster even further south. Gar Lewis reports for us tonight from Huntsville.
The town docks in Huntsville are underwater, and some local restaurants are keeping a close watch on the situation. Water is lapping at the lower area of Steve Spire's On the Docks pub.
It's been up, but I haven't seen it this high. We've been to the point where we haven't been able to park our car, but not to the point where it's where we're standing now even, and I haven't seen it come up this high, no.
The Old North Road is still underwater, and the Tembec plant has canceled shifts for safety reasons. This dam at the Huntsville Locks is wide open, and no let-up in the volume of water passing through it is expected for at least 48 hours.
It's slow going through the system, and we're not too sure what to expect here. If it comes up much higher, there's certainly going to be some concerns.
Washouts and poor road conditions created problems for firefighters at 2 a.m. trying to deal with a blaze at a cottage on 3 Mile Lake in Watt Township. The $250,000 dwelling was completely destroyed.
Summer maintained road with a small washout about 8 feet wide and about a foot deep. Like I said, the 4x4s were able to get through, but we couldn't get our heavy trucks through.
Communities further down the Muskoka watershed are now bracing for the worst. The crest on the Muskoka River is expected to hit Bracebridge on the weekend. Gar Lewis, CKCO News, Huntsville.
And in Quebec, a rapidly rising St. Lawrence River has heightened the flood threat there. For the next 5 days, a surge in the Ottawa River is expected to raise water levels on the St. Lawrence near Ottawa and Montreal. Officials are trying to keep the river's level stable by controlling some of the flow at a dam in Cornwall near the Ontario-Quebec boundary. They say that is only a temporary solution. In Quebec, about 2,100 people have been evacuated in 93 communities this week because of the flooding. And emergency officials are warning curious sightseers everywhere to stay well away from the affected regions. And there are some other things to remember, too. Drinking well water should be avoided if your well has been flooded. All food that's been in contact with flood water should be thrown out. And there are electrical hazards. Officials say no one should enter the flooded part of a building until the power supply has been shut off, and heaters and furnaces that have been in contact with flood water should not be used until they've been checked out as well. We have much more news for you after this break, and a personal note as well tonight. MCTV has lost a very good friend. Jerry Moran, who pushed the right buttons for us in master control at the station, passed away last night at the age of 43 after a brief illness. Jerry's been with the station since 1976, and there isn't a person in this building.
Joe Bowman paid $2,400 to learn the ropes.
I could not picture myself doing anything else but wrestling.
Gary was a pro wrestler for 9 years and still has big dreams. when his training center is complete, he hopes to have an athlete
with a high of 96.
Looks refreshing. Tastes refreshing. Blue light, right out of the ice.
Tonight, premier event, a chat with Mike Harris as he returns home to North Bay. And rising to the occasion, the battle against floodwaters continue across Ontario.
And in sports, over and out, the Sudbury Wolves get swept out of the OHL playoffs by Guelph.
Good evening. Rising floodwaters remain a big concern in many parts of the province this weekend, but it appears authorities are getting a bit of a break from Mother Nature. Cool temperatures and no major threat of rain through Wednesday has conservation officials hoping they will soon gain the upper hand. And that doesn't mean all communities are out of the woods quite yet. MCTV's Derek Rogers visited one flooded neighborhood here in the north where residents are making the best of a bad situation.
If you want to travel down Larchmount Drive near Onaping Falls, a canoe is just about the best way to do it, unless you happen to have particularly long legs, that is. The Vermillion River is overflowing, flooding the neighborhood with nearly a meter of water, but you won't find residents here brooding over their basement. No, it's barbecue time at the barricade.
And you wanted to have the hot dog?
Well, that's the way the people are out here, Derek. They can't hold the water back or whatever, so make the best of it. And it's a community event that people are together, and they're not going to cry in their beer or whatever, so to speak. They're going to make the best of it.
Oh yeah, it's pretty good. There's not much you could do, and we're new here, so this is our first flood, and we're just joining the crowd. And it's a lot of fun in a way, because you get to know your neighbors one way.
It's kind of an odd way to get to know them.
Yeah, really, eh?
Some of the residents here are without power. The town has opened up its community center so people can shower and keep warm. This area is certainly no stranger to flooding situations. One longtime resident figures he's seen at least 6 here since he moved to the area back in 1970. He believes it'll take at least a week before all this water finally disappears. Derek Rogers, MCTV News, Onaping Falls.
Also in the Sudbury area, the Nickel District Conservation Authority says most swollen lakes and rivers appear to have crested. However, the authority warns further flooding remains a possibility as the water works its way through the system. Levels are high this weekend along Sudbury's Lily Creek, with water starting to edge closer to property. And in the Pickerel River area south of Sudbury, there is also concern about rising water with
Sandy Ronaldo, tomorrow on CTV.
What to do? Most rivers have crested and water is receding. But Nickel District Conservation Authority planner Paul CICI-TV says that doesn't mean people shouldn't be vigilant.
Oh, no, I think especially along the Vermillion system, people should continue to be very vigilant and cautious. The system is showing some signs of improvement, going down a wee bit.
CICI-TV took a trip just north of the town of Capreol to check out the snowpack. He says there appears to be little snow and little threat of a quick melt.
The weather conditions have helped, especially overnight. It slows down or makes things more manageable. And just to get away from the precipitation, I mean, that's really what was the instigating factor.
CICI-TV says by early next week he should have a better handle on whether or not the flood threat has passed us by. So far, Mother Nature appears to be cooperating with a few more days of clear skies in the forecast. Derek Rogers, MCTV News, Sudbury.
No flooding problems have been reported in the northern part of the viewing area. The Ministry of Natural Resources has a brief rundown of potential problem areas in the north. As we saw a moment ago, the Sudbury District, the Vermillion and Onaping Rivers have caused some flooding in the communities of Walden and Dowling. In the Nipissing District, the Sturgeon River continues to drop. Trout Lake in North Bay has peaked, but thick ice levels on Lake Nipissing could cause shoreline damage in North Bay, Sturgeon Falls, the Nipissing First Nation Reserve, West Bay, and the Nipissing South Shore. And in the Parry Sound District, the Magnetawan River was expected to peak this weekend. The MNR says water levels in most of northern and central Ontario are declining thanks to a lack of rain and cooler temperatures. The big concern now remains in eastern Ontario, the Ottawa River, which could rise as much as a meter in the next few days.
States of emergency remain in place in many communities southwest of Ottawa, but water levels could stabilize if the weather cooperates. The MNR has delivered another 75,000 sandbags to the area to enlarge the dikes at Mississippi Lake. Well, thinning ice in the Sault Ste. Marie area led to a close call Friday for a St. Joseph Island farmer. As MCTV's Alan Rowland explains, tragedy was averted thanks to the quick action of some of the farmer's neighbors.
The Braycroft Farm is the largest dairy farm in Algoma, covering over 1,200 acres. So it's not uncommon to have some of their cows wander off. But on Friday, a neighbor came and gave them the bad news. The cows had wandered off onto the ice on Lake Huron.
He says, Terry, they're on the ice. So we jumped out the door and run down and looked on the shore for them, and geez, I couldn't see no cows. And one person riding with me said, well, geez, there they are out there. They were like way out on the edge of the ice.
When Terry arrived, he found 13 of his cows about 1/4 of a mile out on the ice, and 9 of them were already in the water. One of the neighbors had a rope, so they decided to try and pull them out of the ice.
We tried first with 4 guys, and we couldn't pull them. They weigh roughly 800 pounds, and we couldn't. When we got them on the ice, we couldn't pull them back far enough, fast enough. And then there was 8 or 9 guys maybe in the end, and as soon as we got them started, then we just run. We pull them maybe 100 feet back.
With the help of his neighbors, all but 1 cow survived, and Terry Brazen says he couldn't have done it without them.
I had people coming from every direction. All the names and that, I'd like to thank them all, but it's just a hard thing to try and get all the names so you get everybody.
Alan Rowland, MCTV News, Sault Ste. Marie.
Well, to other news now, a railway line between North Bay and Sudbury could soon become a key link in Northern Ontario's snowmobile trail network. The plan is called Rails to Trails, and as MCTV's Chris Dawson found out in Sturgeon Falls, the idea could mean big bucks for many in the north.
Northern MPs Ben Saray and Ray Bonan joined forces Sunday looking for support. They would like to see this abandoned rail line developed into an all-purpose trail which would link Sudbury to North Bay.
Could be used for skidoo in the winter, four-wheelers in the summer, could have horseback riding. There's a multitude of different things that you could do with that line. So hopefully we'll get the people interested enough and form a committee to purchase the land and manage it for the community.
CN is selling the line at a cost of $135,000. Nickel Belt MP Ray Bonas says the purchaser would be entitled to provincial and federal funding. He believes Rails to Trails is an economic gold mine Northerners shouldn't pass up.
My purpose in all of this is to help businesses get started along the trails, create jobs, and create wealth for Northern Ontario.
The Northern MPs believe this initiative has the potential to draw tourists from as far away as the United States and even Europe. And they hope Sunday's meeting helped create that financial link to make Rails for Trails a reality. Chris Dawson, MCTV News, Sturgeon Falls.
3 people have been arrested in connection with a police chase in Sudbury early this morning. Sudbury Regional Police pursued a stolen car for 10 kilometers before it came to a stop on King Street. The driver was arrested after a short foot chase along with 2 female passengers. 24-year-old Stephen Rooney of no fixed address and 22-year-old Carrie Sawatis of Sudbury both face theft-related charges. Police also charged a 17-year-old girl. Well, Sunday drivers were out in full force for a good cause in North Bay this morning. North Bay is one of 25 Ontario cities taking part in an awareness campaign for the Ministry of Transportation. This traffic jam on Lakeshore Drive set the scene as the photograph for the 1998 Road Safety Challenge campaign poster was taken. The goal is to remind Ontario drivers to always be on the lookout for emergency vehicles on the road.
Last 3-4 years, there's an abundance of complaints from emergency vehicle drivers, police, ambulance, attendants, fire trucks. People are simply not getting out of the way anymore.
Well, the best have gone head-to-head at the Sudbury Regional Science Fair, one of several in the north this weekend. Over 150 students from the Sudbury school system are vying for the chance to move on to the National Science Fair in Timmins. That's next month. The projects included topics ranging from light refraction to creating a new inline goalie skate. The Science Fair Committee likes what it saw.
Certainly the quality has gone up.
students have a much better understanding of what is required, what is meant by a good science project, and so on.
The back two, these ones rotate 360 degrees, as you can see on the bottom. So when you're skating, you can move sideways with them. And this skate just moves frontwards because you can use that one for traction to push off.
I was trying to find out a method of recycling photocopy paper because you can't recycle it. And it's because of the ink particles, they're glued onto the paper. So I thought of using caustic soda, which they use for mining to take out minerals from the ore. And I found out I could take out 95% of it.
Many of the students will be heading to the National Science Fair in Timmins. That's in May. So it's going to be a very scientific spring, to say the least, in the north.
We'll be hearing about that as well.
For sure. What's happening in sports, Dave?
Lots of stuff, Brian. Baseball, hockey, and of course curling. Canada in action against Australia this afternoon. The Canadians showing the Aussies no mercy. There's Wayne Madaw making a great hit for a pair. That was the fourth end. Canada cruised to victory in that game. They're 2-0.
All right. We'll look forward to more highlights of that. Thanks, Dave. A quick time out here on the MCTV News. When we come back, recovery efforts continue in Ukraine after a deadly gas explosion in a coal mine.
Would you mind putting these in order for me?
Okay. I eat the ice cream. I get the pain.
Yeah.
And then I start with Sensodyne again.
Okay, now try brushing with Sensodyne every day.
Hey, what happened to the pain?
Sensodyne every day helps prevent the pain of sensitive teeth.
Yeah, I'm with you, but how do I prevent cavities?
With this.
F? As in fluoride? So, I brush with Sensodyne F every day to help prevent the pain. And the cavities.
For more than 50 years, power workers have been keeping Ontario's lights on. And that's not always easy. In the ice storm of 1998, in 18 long, cold days, we strung almost 3,000 kilometers of wire. We fielded thousands of phone calls, helping people through the emergency. A lot of things are changing at Hydro today, but one thing won't change. We'll still keep the lights on. We're part of the solution. A message from the power workers, the people part of Hydro.
I've spent a lot on cars over the last 30 years. It used to be I could fix some things myself. Cars now are a lot better and a lot more complicated, so I don't fool around. I go to the people who know my car best, Goodwrench. I could try another place, but I just don't think I can afford it.
At Goodwrench Service, we love cars. We fix them right, on time, and for a fair price. Come in now for our spring service and see what we mean.
That's why my mechanic is a Goodwrench mechanic.
Hey, how's it going? Are you enjoying yourself? That explosion of flavors? Nice. Have you taken the Subway challenge?
Eat food that tastes great.
Nothing but fun, huh?
Subway has 7 great tasting value meals with 8 grams of fat or less. No wonder millions have taken the Subway challenge. Subway, the way a sandwich should be.
Is that a free-range beef patty?
In national news, if you want a top job in the federal public service, you had better be fluent in both French and English. The federal government intends to make bilingualism mandatory for its 3,300 executives, including all new recruits, beginning in 2001. Those who fail the test will be out of a job. Currently, 40% of federal government executives are not bilingual. The new policy excludes those appointed by cabinet. In world news, worshippers around the globe are marking Palm Sunday and the start of Holy Week leading to Easter. Tens of thousands received their Palm Sunday blessings from Pope John Paul in St. Peter's Square in Rome. Meanwhile, up to 2 million Muslims are performing the Hajj pilgrimage or gathering in Mecca. The pilgrims are circling the Kaaba, Islam's holiest site, a stone structure inside the Grand Mosque, which Muslims face 5 times daily to pray. Tragic news now in Ukraine. The death toll has risen to 63 following yesterday's gas explosion in a coal mine. 9 other miners remain in critical condition. More than 600 miners had been working below ground at the time of the methane gas explosion. Ukraine's mining industry has earned a reputation for danger and death, especially since the collapse of communism, which left many operations in acute financial crisis. Miners at this mine had not been paid for 4 months. A big scare on the Mississippi River in St. Louis this weekend. More than 2,000 people were evacuated from a riverboat casino after a barge towing other vessels suddenly ran into it. Fortunately, there were no serious injuries. The U.S. Coast Guard is investigating if a current strike by towboat operators is related to the incident. In Japan, traffic is rolling across the world's longest suspension bridge. It opened today in Japan, linking the main island of Honshu with a smaller island. The bridge spans 3,900 meters, and it's built to withstand a catastrophic earthquake. Back now in the north to check out some new treasures at the Timmins Museum. An exhibit of more than 40 quilts is on display, treasured keepsakes by members of the Timmins Quilters Guild. MCTV's Asher Hassan reports.
For many quilters, quilting gives them the opportunity to express their feelings and show their creativity. This is true for Lorraine Belair. She has many quilted pieces on display in the Treasured Keepsakes exhibit at the Timmins Museum. For Belair, the exhibit is well named. There is one particular piece which she treasures the most, Grandmother's Garden. It took her 180 hours to put it together by hand.
Got an inspiration of my mother, and something that while I was keeping my mother, because she has Alzheimer's, and while I was keeping her, while I kept busy putting this together and thinking of her.
Belair has created many other pieces. Fabric which holds memories of her mother and grandmother have been quilted into this vest. Belair has been a member of the Timmins Quilters Guild for 6 years. She says anyone who loves quilting can join. Members have made many quilts for themselves as well as for others.
The Timmins Quilters Guild has donated many quilts over the years. The members have recently completed this one, which will be donated to the Kinross Children's Treatment Center.
Belair's, as well as other Guild members' treasured keepsakes, will be on display until the end of the month. Asher Hassan, MCTV News, South Porcupine.
All of them a work of art, certainly. Now we check the regional weather forecast, a pretty stable pattern for the next couple of days. The only exception is the Temiskaming district, which could see a little bit of light freezing rain or drizzle overnight. Everywhere else should be otherwise clear, maybe some cloud mixed in, some scattered showers possible by midweek around the north. However, temperatures will remain near normal. And there's the Shaney Falls this afternoon in North Bay. The forecast beginning with Sault Ste. Marie, Algoma, Manitoulin Island, and Elliott Lake. Cloudy periods -4 overnight, sunny with cloudy periods and a high of 10 tomorrow. And then for Tuesday, pretty much the same story and temperature again near 10 degrees. For Timmins, Cochrane, Kapuskasing, and Hearst, cloudy periods tonight. Again, some possible freezing drizzle for the Temiskaming district only. -6 tonight, sunny with cloudy periods, a high of 10 tomorrow. And 8 degrees on Tuesday, but no chance of rain in the forecast. For Sudbury, North Bay, Sturgeon Falls, and the Parry Sound district, cloudy periods -5 tonight. Sun and cloud tomorrow with a high of 10 degrees, and pretty much the same story for Tuesday again. Temperatures maybe a little bit cooler at 9 degrees Celsius. Current temperatures, Chapleau and Gore Bay, sunshine and 7 degrees. Clear in Earlton at 3 degrees. Kapuskasing with a few clouds at 6, and Moose City is 1 degree above zero. That's the weather forecast. Dave is here with sports. And you've got baseball. The Blue Jays trying to get over 500 again.